Hi, I'm Laura Flanders. This is the show where the people who say it can't be done take a back seat to the people who are doing it. This week, part one of our report from Cannonball, North Dakota, where the Ocheti-Sacoan, or Seven Council Fires community at Standing Rock, has been gathering to stop the construction of an oil pipeline. Over the last few months, representatives from hundreds of indigenous nations have traveled to Standing Rock, where they found not only struggle but also community, and they have a lot to teach. They're calling themselves protectors, not protesters, and their effort is years in the making, part of a decades-long struggle against environmental racism, indiscriminate raids, and genocide.
My name is Artel-Supervising. I come from the Oglala Lakota Nation. I'm very happy and humbled to see all of you people here supporting us. All of you people that are here supporting the youth. The youth are the ones that are leading this movement. The youth are the ones that have the voice. We're the ones who have the power. We're the ones who are going to stop this black snake.
Our first conversation is with Terrell Ironshell of the International Indigenous Youth Council. He spoke about how young people like him are getting involved, and how gathering at Standing Rock is mobilizing an entire generation of indigenous young people.
My name is Terrell Ironshell. I'm Oglala Lakota and Eastern Band Cherokee. I have been here in Cannonball for over a month now. I had just joined the International Indigenous Youth Council, as something to do, and now it's grown into this whole, almost like its own, small movement here, where we have the youth and we're educating them on, our treaty rights and just our, human rights, and we're really just trying to empower them, not only youth my age, but the kids, and we really want them to know that they do have a voice, and they are the ones that are going to do this. Right now we're sitting in our International Youth Council's camping ground. I think of this as the Ocheti-Sacoan camp, and this youth council here is the people that are here for the long haul, the ones that are dedicated to this council and dedicated to these youth that are here. The outsiders, they don't really know what's going on here, and so the media is taking advantage of that, where they're hate mongering and fear mongering. These natives are bad, they're criminals, you don't want to be affiliated with them, and so they run all of this propaganda, and it really paints this narrative of us, where we are here quarreling with each other, and we are, there's all this dysfunction, but when you come to camp and you actually walk around and everyone's in unity and peace and prayer. Everywhere you go, I'm Oglala Lakota, and one of my best friends, one of my brothers, he's Pawnee, and he camps right across the road from us. And back in the old days, that never have happened. We would never have been able to get that chance to get to know one another on that personal level. And there are a lot of different tribes here, and some of them, they haven't been this close in contact with each other in hundreds of years. And so this is really a great time for our people, where we're all coming together and we're all standing for one thing, and it's not just for this pipeline. Now we have all of these different networks and relations that we can call upon, and we can all stand in solidarity with each other, and it can go farther than this pipeline. And that's really what we're trying to do here, is gear these young kids up for the future. This is just a small stepping stone for them, where they're going to learn these leadership roles and the roles that they play in our culture and our heritage, and the different protocols that they have to follow. They're going to learn that here, so when they're older and we have more things like this and more opportunities for our people to network and build our voices, then they will already have those common tools, where they had learned that from a young age. We're constantly meeting new people here and making new relationships, and those are a part of the healing process, as a part of this healing ceremony, where we are able to speak to people who have been through it, or people who have seen it, and really learn what worked and what didn't. And it's really powerful that we are able to be here and be able to witness stuff like this. Social media has played a major role in this. We have all of these allies that can't be here, but they stand in solidarity with us. We're receiving almost, I don't want to say overwhelming, but it's, we get a lot of mail from supporters, saying that they stand with us and they're standing in solidarity with us. And so we're trying to get these different messages or symbols to try to connect with them where they could stand with us and they can do actions with us, but just directly from home or wherever they are.
That's the voice of Terrell Ironshell of the International Indigenous Youth Council, talking to the Laura Flanders Show earlier this fall.
Growing up in an American Indian movement family, I have been around activists and civil rights leaders and all of these different community organizers, and just being around those people and sitting and hearing the conversations that they have with each other. A lot of people don't think that the youth listen, but we are listening. Every time there's people around and they may be sitting there playing or doing their own thing, but they're sitting there listening to what's going on around them and they're absorbing it. What I see here is within these youth is they yearn for this knowledge, of our ancestors and of our treaties. So what I would really want to see is these youth actually, going out and getting educated and going to college and really fighting for our treaty rights. I have a 3-year-old daughter and she's here with me, and I take her to all of these meetings with me, and she sees all of the different ceremonies go on, not only the ceremonies of our people but ceremonies of other people all across Turtle Island, all across this whole world. And she's learning, she's absorbing all of this. And so when she gets older, she's gonna say, yeah, I was there, during the biggest gathering of nations on the planet. I was here, I learned from these people, I had relationships with these people. And those are relationships that are gonna last a lifetime.
You're listening to the Laura Flanders Show, and this is a special report from Standing Rock.
When you would go to an elder and you would ask for help, or you would ask for advice, you would bring them tobacco, and they would tell a story. And it was up to you in your mind and in your heart and what you were going through at the time to get what you needed from that story. As a part of the healing process, you would translate that story as to what it meant to you. I heard this story, and whenever I got here, it really hit me like, oh, well, this is why I heard that story. Back in the old days, when the elders would come to meet, they would meet in a council's lodge like the one that we have here. And there was the wolf and the bear and the eagle, and they were the leaders, and so they were having council in this lodge. And there was the little bunny, and he had wanted his voice to be heard, but them being elders and him being, the young small bunny that he is, he doesn't really have that room to speak. And so the elders were having their council in the lodge, and as they're getting ready to discuss these important things, they hear a drum outside, a hand drum, and they say, go deal with that. We're trying to have a council, it has to be quiet. And so they send the wolf out, and he sees the little bunny, and he's standing there playing his drum and singing his song, yo hey yo hey yo, yo hey yo hey yo. And the wolf goes up to him and he says, little bunny, can you stop singing your song, and we're trying to have council in here. And no, the bunny just keeps singing and beating on his drum. And the wolf says, okay, well, I have a solution. And he grabs one of his arms and he rips it off. And he goes back into the teepee and says, well, problem solved. He doesn't have an arm, he can't beat on his drum. So they try to go back into their council and discussing these things, and they hear the drum outside again. And this time the bear says, okay, well, I'll take care of it. And when he goes outside, he sees little bunny, and he's got the drum in between his legs, and he's beating it with his one arm. And he's singing his song, yo hey yo hey yo, yo hey yo hey yo. And the bear says, little bunny, can you stop? Can you be quiet? We're trying to have council in here, and you're out here singing your song and beating on your drum, and we can't really concentrate. And the bunny just keeps singing his song with his drum between his legs. And so the bear, he says, well, I have a solution. And he takes one of his legs and he takes one of his arms. And he says, okay, perfect. You know, he can't hold his drum anymore, he can't beat it. And so he goes back into the council lodge and they resume their meeting. And they hear him singing outside, yo, hey, yo, hey, yo, yo, hey, yo, hey, yo. And so the eagle says, well, I'll take care of it. And when he goes outside, the little bunny is hopping on one foot because he doesn't have a drum anymore. He can't hold his drum. So he's hopping on his one foot and he's singing his song to the beat of his hopping. And the eagle, he says, little bunny, can you stop singing? We're trying to have council in here and you're disturbing us. And the little bunny just keeps hopping and singing his song. And so the eagle, he goes over and he takes off the bunny's foot and he takes his head. And he says, well, that, you know, now he has no head, he can't talk. And, you know, problem solved. And when they go back into the council teepee, they hear a faint drum and a faint song, when it's the bunny song. And so they all go outside together to address him. And it's just his little body sitting there. And they can hear the faint drum and the faint song still. And so when they go up to his body and they look into his neck, they realize that the song is coming from his heart. And that's when they realized that they couldn't stop him from singing his song, and they couldn't stop him from having his voice heard. So they put his legs back on, and they put his arms back on, and they put his head back on, and they invited him into their council. Yesterday, we led a rally in Bismarck, and when we came back, they're almost like a warrior society in their own way. It's a group of elderly women, and so they invited us over to the Red Warrior camp, and they had a meeting with us, and they had voiced their support for us, and also their concerns for the youth, not only here, but for all of the youth, all of our people's youth, and the struggles that we're having. But they had said that we had given them hope for our generation because of the things that we're doing and the leadership roles that we have taken. You know, we're really setting a new path for these young people to follow.
Our next conversation's with Michelle Cook, who was right then celebrating her 30th day as legal counsel for the Oceti-Sakowin camp.
So, yat she'e Michelle Cook nishe, hanagat nishle, bilagana basichin, toba hidashich bilagana dashanelli. My name is Michelle Cook. I'm from the Diné Nation, and my clan is the One Who Walks Around You clan. Today is my 1-month anniversary here at Standing Rock, camped in the Oceti-Sakowin camp. I have been here to facilitate the legal team and have tried to be of service to the camp in the legal defense and in organizing the attorneys who have come in to help and assist the camp with the legal defense and with any other concerns that they have. It's been an incredible experience to be here. I've constantly been challenged every day to learn, to be humble, and to consider the individuals that are most vulnerable and weak here in the camp. We have a lot of elders here, we have a lot of women and children, and so we have been very much concerned in doing what we can to place those who are most vulnerable in the center of our decision making and in the center of our overall legal strategy of providing services here to the folks on site. What I've learned here is truly remarkable and truly humbling. When we talk about rights in the United States, when we talk about human rights in the United States, we often do that from a distance. However, when you come to a place like this and you see our constitutional rights be violated, when you see the civil and political rights be violated, when you experience and see human rights be violated, it changes your perspective on where we are as a country, where we are as indigenous peoples in the United States. And what I have seen is that we are very far from having our rights meaningfully and fully and effectively protected. We continue to have violations of rights. We continue to have the treaties, Indian treaties that have been violated. And we consistently see that when indigenous peoples have exercised their human right to self-determination, their inherent right to self-determination, they have been met with incredible acts of violence. And that is unacceptable here in the United States, and that is unacceptable anywhere in the world. Indigenous peoples have a right to their lands, territories, and natural resources. They have a right to their sui generis legal systems and their self-governance. They have a right of self-determination, and by virtue of that right to pursue their economic, social, cultural development. That is a right, that is a human inherent right, and that is what this camp is about.
People gonna rise like the water. We gonna face this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter singing, shut this pipeline down. People gonna rise. The people gonna rise out the wall.
The ways in which they have come to do that development, which was without adequate consultation or consent. On the other hand, it is also to build the future, to say that indigenous peoples are no longer going to allow their rights and their futures to be robbed from them. That is no longer acceptable to steamroll development projects in indigenous territories without seeking their consent and without considering how those decisions, those developments of their natural resources jeopardize their survival as a peoples for the future. So we're very much here to stand for life, to stand for indigenous peoples' rights and a paradigm of rights going forward. As you're aware, after the injunction was denied in D.C., the intervention by the Department of Justice, the Department of Interior, and the Department of Defense stated two recommendations in that intervention, and one was to reconsider the consultation and consultation policies in the United States, and the other was proposed legislation that would change the statutory framework of the United States. And so if they are truly in good faith with those recommendations, then we certainly have a conversation, and we certainly have much to tell them in how we would like to see that statutory framework of federal Indian law be changed to align with indigenous peoples' human rights. And indigenous peoples throughout the United States have put pressure on the state party, the United States, to change their laws so that we can avoid the human rights violations which have occurred and which have indeed brought us here. We would not be here in this camp if federal Indian law was not obsolete. If we would not be here if indigenous human rights were protected, were meaningfully protected. And so this is why we're here, because we're demanding that things must change. And you know, they've come after indigenous peoples in so many respects. They've taken the children, they've taken our land, and now they've tried to take our water, which is our very essence of survival as a people.
That was Michelle Cook, one of the legal counsels for the Oceti-Sakowin camp.
It is unacceptable that a corporation or any entity would threaten the ability of a peoples to survive, to exist. That is genocidal. Decisions which threaten the ability of a people to survive is genocidal. Call it by any other name. Call it progress. Call it manifest destiny. That is what's happening in America. A war by other means against the most vulnerable people, the first Americans here. And so we're saying no. We're saying no, that America can do better, that this world can do better by indigenous peoples. And we are here to build that future. And if the government in that intervention is inviting us to dialogue, to say that how can we change the laws, Well, we have a lot of recommendations for them. One is to enforce the treaties that were signed by our governments and our nations, our tribal nations. Those treaties must be enforced. Human rights to consultation and to free, prior, informed consent must be respected and meaningfully and effectively executed. The protection of sacred sites and the protection of our ability to exercise our religious expression and freedom must be part of that way forward. If we are truly and in good faith wanting to change, as that recommendation said in that intervention, then that is what must be done. And so we're the people here and going forward will be in a position to negotiate, but it's not going to be on their terms. It's no longer going to be on their terms. Business will not carry on as usual because we want to live, and we want to live as free people. We're not going to be prisoners of war anymore. We're not going to be oppressed anymore. We're not going to allow a government or a corporation to ignore the suffering of these people. We're not going to allow a corporation to come and possibly decimate the Lakota Dakota people. We're not going to allow it. And so you see that the whole world has rallied to support this movement, this pure movement of humble and beautiful people who are doing nothing more than demanding that they will exist, that they will live, that they will have dignity, that they will not be silent as their cultures, as their peoples, as their water is threatened and undermined by corporate greed or corporate entities that have no accountability, that have no remorse. When those individuals from Dakota Access, when they turned dogs on a group of women and children, that is unacceptable, but they showed themselves that they would kill for that oil. That is unacceptable. That is not and should not be part of America, should not be part of this world. But that's the true history. That's the history of genocide. That's the history of what has happened for 500 years here in this land, is that the state and non-state actors have used violence to take what they want. And so we are very much fighting for the soul of America. We're fighting for the soul of this earth. We're fighting for the soul of this planet. We're fighting for the soul of humanity. We are better than this. We are better than that. I believe that fully in my heart, that every human being yearns for that freedom and yearns to be free from oppression. And if this camp can help facilitate that healing, if this camp can help individuals begin to imagine what a just future would look like for Indigenous peoples and all peoples, then I'm happy to be here. And I'm happy to take part and to facilitate in any way I can the service of that greater mission, which is to protect this planet, to protect the waters, to protect the forests, to protect the land that we all are inextricably connected to and depend on for our survival. And so we're not just doing that for the immediate needs, but we're doing that for the future, for the unborn, for those who are coming, for the young generations. We have to do that for them. It's our responsibility to be here and to do that for them. And I'm thankful for that, and I've learned a lot. And I certainly know that when I go back home into my own homelands in Dene territory, that I will be sending this message out to the world, and that what I've learned here will influence and will become part of my practice and my methodology to achieve human rights in the United States for Indigenous peoples and for all peoples.
You're listening to The Laura Flanders Show. For more information, go to lauraflanders.com.
We have not won the war because, again, the war is throughout the world. It's in the Amazon. It's in Amazon. It's in Palestine. It's the struggle for human rights, for dignity, for land is a global struggle. And so this is one part of that struggle. But we stand victorious already because we have achieved something that has never been done. We have united tribes that have been traditional enemies. We have united the world to support an indigenous cause. We have come together to imagine what a just future would look like. This has never happened before. It's unprecedented. And so we can sit in that victory and be thankful for that victory, that we have achieved something here that is unprecedented, that will continue to unfold and continue to teach us as time goes on. And so this has been a profound act of sovereignty. It will be what I think will be a turning point in the discourse of Indian rights in the United States, and I think it will be a turning point for Indigenous peoples' rights globally. And I hope that it's a spark that catches throughout the world that will light the fires of justice for all peoples. And I'm thankful to be here, and I'm thankful for our media who's here to tell the world that we are not protesters. We may be fighting a pipeline, but we are Indigenous peoples. We are the first Americans. We have rights. We have human rights. We are exercising those rights. We are implementing those rights right now. And that's who we are as a people. We are the voice of the earth. We are the voice of the water. And we're asking for the forces that be to stop the destruction and to let us live.
I hear the voice of my great-granddaughter singing, shut this pipeline down.
That's it for this week. I want to thank everyone who made this report possible at Standing Rock, as well as all of you at home who contributed to defray our costs. If you want to help keep coverage like this coming, please follow the links and contribute at lauraflanders.com. And if you want to tell me what you think, write to me. That's Laura at lauraflanders.com. Laura at lauraflanders.com. Thanks a lot. We'll be back next week.